Joining me today is John Garvey, who's running for the New Hampshire State Senate in District 8. John, I think one of the issues that is going to have to be addressed next year is the Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
Set to expire. Won't be the first year, it'll be probably the second, although the budget may signal that. Where do you stand on Medicaid expansion in general? I know there's no specific legislation in front of you, but sort of what's your bias about the right path that we ought to head?
My sense of it, I favor the fact that it was extended. I think that it was very important. It has now provided insurance for about 50,000 people in New Hampshire. It provides a lot of the funding for the mental health treatment and the opioid treatment for the people in that situation who are eligible for the Medicaid expansion. And the issues, we had the issue, why don't we have enough treatment facilities? Why don't we have enough beds right now? It was because the places that provided those beds couldn't stay in business because there wasn't the coverage for it. The beds now are more likely to get made available, and we're more likely to get the treatment because of the fact that this expansion is there. Plus, at this point, 95% of that is being paid by the federal government, so it was a really good way for us to get that access available for the people who qualified.
Let me turn another issue, so we get this. The state's role in education funding.
Yes.
Are we about where we ought to be? How do you look at that and sort of the local state balance?
Well, I was involved in, I was one of the 3 lawyers who filed the Claremont case back in 1989, I think it was, 890.
It was a long
time ago.
It was the previous millennia, as
yes,
I like to say.
It was a long time ago. And what we wanted at that point was that every student would have the right to an equal opportunity regardless of zip code. We felt like under the Constitution of New Hampshire that education is a state requirement. It is cherished in the Constitution. In the Constitution it says that education being necessary for the preservation of a free society, it shall be the obligation, etc. So that's something that the framers of the Constitution took seriously. They understood how important it was for our citizens to get proper education. And the Claremont case did not result in what we had frankly hoped for. I don't think we've gotten there yet. There is a lot of politics involved, of course, and the legislature at various times has dealt with funding formulas. That's what got us in there in the first place, was the original Augenblick formula.
Yeah, the Augenblick formula.
And they weren't funding it. They had created a formula, but then they weren't funding it. So this is an ongoing discussion. I don't expect it to end anytime soon, but if I'm in the Senate, I will be advocating for a fair and equitable solution that does provide every student with the opportunity for an adequate education.
Let me keep going. Choice and life issues, the abortion rights, choice. Where do you stand on that in terms of, we've seen some moves to regulate that further in a variety of ways. Talk to me about that.
Well, I'll start by saying that there were several rather extreme attempts in the legislature over the last 2 years to further regulate it. I was not in favor of those. I'll give you a very personal story about how I came to my views, and it was back when I used to defend doctors in medical malpractice cases, and there was a situation that involved a therapeutic abortion. The doctor needed to do it for the health of the patient, and the fetus was already dead. But in that process, as part of my training, I was shown from an educational standpoint the various fetuses that were at the age that was involved in this case. And I saw one that was between 18 and 20 weeks. That had a profound effect on me. And I took the whole concept of the termination very seriously. I saw it in a way that I had never seen it before. And it occurred to me at that time that people who do not believe in choice should, I think, consider educating in a different way, because just that education had a profound effect on me, and it became something that I think would be a very personal decision. But ultimately, in my view, it is a decision that the woman has a right to make. And so I very much respect different views, but I think as a government, it's not our business to tell the woman what she can do with her body.
And I wish we had more time, but we are out of time. And that, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts your life in our region. If you've got a comment or an idea for a future show, please email me. But most importantly, join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Capital Connections.